Howdy, all. I'm always in Buffalo. Russ is in Buffalo for the draft combine, and Ack will be with us shortly.
Not by my own choice. Not by my own choice. If I had a choice, I wouldn't be in Buffalo. I would pick somewhere else. I'm just saying.
Well, we do have to mention that Russ and I went out to dinner last night, and going out to dinner, he discovered that Buffalo pizza is much better than Pittsburgh pizza.
Way better. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah.
It was so good. I had a Greek pizza. It was really good. Jeff Marek, who was there, is a vegetarian, and he was salivating a little bit. I saw that he was eyeballing my pizza. He was.
I was like, you didn't want to take it home in a box. I'm like, there were 3 pieces. I was tempted to take it home. It looked good.
Like, how fat could I get, though? That's the problem.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so last night
I had Shane Malloy looking over here next to me saying not much more with his eyes. So there you go.
Yeah, I finished off every bit of my beef Slovakia wrap.
There was even money on that, to be honest.
So last night, and we've gone through the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Final, and I think that both games, to a greater or lesser extent, were compelling. Game 1 of the NBA finals were last night, and I missed the first half, as we all did, and then watched the second half, and there wasn't anything there, Russ. I mean, Golden State romped over the Cavaliers, and the NBA, after a really bad playoff where the Warriors went 12-0 and the Cavs went 12-1, if this is a 5-game series, their playoff was an unmitigated disaster.
I mean, it is only 1 game. I don't want to get crazy. I will say this. When you have LeBron James out there in the fourth quarter and his team's getting destroyed, and Draymond Green makes him look terrible on just like the weirdest shot you've ever seen, it doesn't look good for your best player, and it doesn't look good for the argument calling him the best player ever. I like LeBron James, and I think he's one of the top guys, but that's why I never call anybody the best player ever until it's really conclusive, because everybody just wants to hand them championships.
Right.
The thing that bothers me here is it's the same thing as the Dave Winfield factor with the Toronto Blue Jays. Or was it the Twins? I can't remember. It was Blue Jays,
it was the
right?
Blue Jays. It was the Blue Jays. Yeah.
Yeah. And he literally went there just so he could DH and get a championship. And Kevin Durant did the same thing. And it bothers me because, like, if I'm that great player, I want to be the reason that team wins. If Golden State wins, they didn't win because of Kevin Durant. They were already a great team. They just will win by more points with Kevin Durant because they have him. That's all.
Well, yes and no. I mean, Durant. Durant has got the most pressure and has the most to prove. These teams have faced each other the last 2 years in the final, and it looked like Durant was trying to prove his point yesterday, because I think he scored 35 points, and he was the dominant player in the game. And he was even. He denied this after the game, but apparently Rihanna, who I'm a wrong generation to listen to.
Come on, Mike, you're plugged into Rihanna. Don't lie.
Yeah.
No, you're plugged into Rihanna.
But apparently Rihanna is a big LeBron fan, and she was like talking stuff during the game, like yelling the word brick when he was up at the free throw line. And late in the fourth quarter, and it was like a 20-point game, Durant hits a three, and he turns and he just looks at Rihanna. And in the post game, one of the reporters, mentioned it, and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't looking at her." So there's that little. But the thing is, the game was so non-competitive that was the big story in Game 1. That's not the narrative you want for the NBA. Is that?
Right. No, but you have to admit, like, Golden State had a great chance of winning without Kevin Durant. Now with him, they'll win by 20 points every game. So okay. Right.
Good, because I like Golden State. I'm not, I like LeBron. I just don't like the Cavaliers. They already won their championship, so go away.
I will say this, man, and I know he gets a lot of bashing, and he was a star for Golden State, but I knew him as a New York Net before he was even in Golden State in the ABA, and I used to shoot my foul shots underhand for a while. I don't know why he takes such a beating, but he really was a great player, and when I think of Golden State, I think of players like him. And
Chris Mullin.
Some of those old, Chris Mullin shooting the lights out. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see them win.
Yeah, I remember Manute Bol shooting 3-pointers as a Golden State Warrior. Okay, one other thing before we get to hockey here, I have to mention this. There have been scandals that have been, really disturbing, and there are scandals that are funny. And the Mr. Met middle finger scandal has to be one of the funniest things I have ever heard. First of all, let's get it straight, folks. He's only got 4 digits, so it's impossible for him to give the middle finger. But the 3 digits, like there's one that's sort of to the side, so it does look like it's a middle finger.
Okay, but the intent was there.
The intent was there.
Like, this is where we're going to get back to, like, being talking about plays in the NHL, and so the intent was there. But here's the thing. There's somebody inside of Mr. Met portraying him, and that person gave the finger. It'd be like if somebody, and I don't know why anybody would do this, but it would be like if somebody walked around with a Michelangelo costume and started giving everybody the finger, you would start getting notes on Twitter, Mike, stop giving everybody the finger. But it's not you. Costume acting like you do. And so this is really unfair to the Mr. Met persona. And I feel like this guy, we should find out what his name is, and he should be shamed on Twitter, because now yesterday Mr. Met wasn't even at the game, and he should be at the game, and he is arguably the best or second best mascot. I think the Philly Fanatic's probably a little better. But now this guy has tarnished the reputation of Mr. Met, and it's wrong. That's all. That's my statement.
First of all, if somebody's walking around the city of Buffalo with a Michelangelo costume, it has to look incredibly handsome. but yes. I mean, the person inside is responsible, and apparently yesterday there was a new Mr. Met, so it was the same costume with a different person. So, I know
somebody that covered the game, and they said they didn't see him, so maybe he showed up late in the game.
Okay, maybe they were fitting him for a new costume, but yeah. So it's funny, but in the world, and I'm not going to go into this, but in the world of what happened with Kathy Griffin recently, the Mr. Met thing is very tame and very.
But mascots have morals clauses. That's the bottom line.
Yes, that's true. X says he'll be here in 2 minutes, so we'll get the show started and just talk in general about this.
So that means 5 minutes, but okay. That's X time.
Yes. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, June 2nd, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Well, Russ, we've entered June. This is going to be the month of major consequence for the NHL. The finals will complete the award ceremony in Vegas, the expansion draft, the draft. We're going to be very busy this month. I just want to talk about, because it was mentioned on very briefly on X blog yesterday, the June 1st deadline for signing of undrafted or unsigned draft picks.
Yes.
There was one player for the Flyers, so it was Samuel Dove McFalls, who was, I think he was a 4th round pick. I think he was the highest pick that was unsigned. Yeah. But there were a number of teams. I know Toronto, there were a couple prospects that people actually liked. The prospect for the Sabres, I heard them talking on local radio. I think his name is Giorgio Estefan. That I think he had over 80 points in the WHL, and there were some people who thought, well, why didn't they sign them? I mean, in general, you can't make an overgeneralization that none of these guys are going to pan out. They might, but this is sort of a symptom of teams not managing their organization and signing too many players to entry level or one-way contracts.
Right, like we don't know where the Flyers stand with the 50 contracts thing. I don't know where they are. They do have Oscar Lindblom, who they expect to possibly even make the big club this year. And so that probably hurt Dove McFalls. But I think he's going to get drafted. I think he'll go somewhere, 5th, 6th, 7th round. It would be great for a team like Vegas to take him, because they literally could put him right in the AHL and he'd be ready to, battle for a spot. I do want to mention with Vegas, I like the Thomas Heika signing. Mm-hmm. He was in the Flyers organization once. I actually Gatineau and got to see him. We all watched him play internationally. He was a fun player to watch. And that's my bottom line is he will be a fun guy to watch in the AHL. Whether he ever gets NHL call-ups, he might. But that was a smart signing by Vegas because he's ready to go. He's 24 years old. Let him go there and let him entertain some people. He's got some speed and he's got a little bit of flair to his game, and it's fun to watch him.
Well, I mean, most of these players who were 2015 draft picks will re-enter the draft. There were a few like Steven DeRoche, who was a Leaf draft pick, who was 21. He becomes a UFA, and there are other players who are over the age of 20. If they're 21 or older, they become UFAs. The question is, and the Leafs are not the only team that's trying to do this, but a lot of teams are trying to manage their prospects by getting them to sign AHL contracts. Yeah. And I think that, like with Toronto, that was one of the reasons why I think some of these players like Nikita Korostelev and DeRoche didn't get signed, because I think the Leafs were trying to force them into an AHL deal. And a lot of teams are trying to do this because they don't want these players who may take 2 or 3 years to get to the NHL to take up space under the 50 contract limit.
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers did that with Oxinen. He was a teammate of Jack Eichel, and definitely a bit of a project, and they got him signed to an AHL deal. And if you remember, the only reason I found out is because I saw it on Elite Prospects. It got slid in there. There was no announcement. There was no email. And that's what teams do now. And yeah, why not? If you could get extra assets that way, and maybe out of 5 guys you do that way, one of them makes it to the NHL, it's worth it.
Right. Okay, we're not going to have a game 3, of the Stanley Cup Final until tomorrow night. The 2-day rest in between game 2 and game 3, travel going from Pittsburgh to Nashville. I know that there was speculation based on Peter Laviolette's sort of evasive phrasing in post-game and I think yesterday, regarding who is going to start game 3. Russ, I don't think that there's any chance that UC Saros starts game 3, but I think that Laviolette opened up this can of worms by not being definitive and saying Pekka Rinne's my guy.
Yeah, as the entrance music goes for Vince McMahon, No Chance in Hell, I think that's the same chance UC Saros has of starting. If you really, and I was in the room, I wasn't like in the conference room because I heard it because I was piped in. And if you really listen to Peter Laviolette, which again I did because I had a chance to cover him, and I've covered him in the Stanley Cup too, he basically said, look, Pekka Rinne had a lot of defensive breakdowns in front of him, and we're going to fix that. And so by saying that, he definitely was taking the heat off of Pekka Rinne so he can use him again in game 3. And he will, because why wouldn't you? He is your guy. You're home now. They have a great record in that building. You're hoping he gets settled in. And look, for 2 periods in that game, Pekka Rinne was terrific. I mean, it was just he had a bad stretch again. And so they're going to try and get their guy in there. You don't want to go down 3-0 because you put UC Saros in too early. You would rather it be, hey, if Pekka Rinne has another bad game, okay, then we have a decision to make, and you're back in the series. So there's no way it's going to be Pekka Rinne.
No, and this is just speculation on my part. Could this simply be a distractive thing that Laviolette's doing? Like he'd say he goes to Rinne after game 2 and says, "You're my starter. You're going, but I'm going to float this out there." Just as a distraction, so people don't focus on other aspects.
Yeah, actually, if I were Laviolette in practice, I would have Saros maintain the main net and actually play up to that a little bit so it gets misreported. That's exactly what I would do.
Okay. Now, one other interesting thing in terms of the post-game remarks, and then it was reiterated yesterday. PK Subban basically guaranteed that the Preds would win game 3. And then, they asked him again yesterday, and he said, yeah, after a day of rest, I'm even more sure we're going to win game 3. So, everybody knows PK is a very confident guy. He likes the spotlight. I think this brings the spotlight on him even more. I'm not going to equate this to the Mark Messier thing because that was up against, the Rangers were down 3-2 in New Jersey in foreign territory, and he made his boast and he backed it up with a hat trick. But
Right.
I mean, you know, if I was a normal NHL player and not PK Subban, this is the last thing I would do, being down 2-0. This is bulletin board material for Pittsburgh if they needed it.
Yeah, but he's a leader. What is he supposed to do? The last time I paid attention to guarantees was Mark Messier, and the time before that was Joe Namath. And any other guarantee you should never pay attention to, because every leader, every captain, player feels like they need to say that when they want to get their guys fired up. I don't put any stock into it at all. I will make a guarantee, though. I guarantee PK Subban walks into the building with a flashy suit and a bowler hat on. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, well, what is the over-under?
Because I was right behind him last game, and there were reporters following him in like he was on the runway at a fashion show.
What is the over-under on catfish for Game 3?
I'm going to say it's not going to be a catfish. I'm going to say if we see anything, it will be a different kind of fish. Maybe a gefilte fish. I'm not sure.
Jeez. Now there's no reason for Pittsburgh to make any changes.
I have to say this. Hold on.
Okay.
For the non-Jewish audience, there is no such thing as a gefilte fish. It's a mixture of whitefish and pike, and we only eat it like one time of the year during Passover. So it's a joke. You only eat it when you're forced to eat it, is what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like your.
Although I like it.
It's like your mother's lasagna at Christmas time if you're Italian. Although my mom's lasagna is good.
See, now you already defended your mom. You ripped your mom on one part.
No. I ripped Italians, and then I defended my mother because her lasagna is actually good.
Yeah.
From the Pittsburgh point of view, it does. I mean, I would not expect them to make any kind of changes in their lineup. I mean, unless there was an injury. Now we know Matt Cullen went down in the first period, but he came back later in the game. So, Russ, I'm just wondering whether there's any way Hagelin gets into the lineup for Game 3, because he is a speedy player and an effective player. But I mean, if they're up 2-0, I wouldn't expect them to make any changes.
If it ain't broke, you don't fix it. He's not going to get in, I don't think.
Hey, all. Thanks,
Hey.
guys. Sorry for being delayed here.
Okay.
Talked finance here, so let me know if I sound okay or look okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good to go.
Okay, good.
You sound okay. You look the same. I don't know if that's good or not. But you look
Appreciate that, Russ. It's nice. Thanks very much. Yes, I know. So anyway, what did I miss? Sorry.
We were touching on the UC Saros, the chances of Saros playing in Game 3, and
Thomas Heike signing. That's all.
Yeah, so not much else. That and Mr. Met.
Yeah, I mean, I just touched on that a little bit. It is interesting, like the story I wrote yesterday. There are some interesting possibilities here that you could see, like along the lines of this is Laviolette, right? So he loves to move his goalies around. He loves to make changes, and you could see him doing something like this. But I don't think for Game 3. I think maybe I could see it for Game 4 though. I could. If Rennie has a tough time, a little bit like that Ben Bishop, Vasilevsky type situation, but not quite. I mean, obviously Ben Bishop, Vasilevsky is more of a known star, but they really like Saros a lot, and there is also that extra factor.
But you don't want to put him in that kind of situation if you can help it.
Right. It's a tough one though, because Laviolette will do anything he has to win. He's shown that before. I mean, he doesn't care too much about goalies' feelings or anything like that in this spot. I mean, how many times is Nashville going to be in this spot? Yeah. So that's a tough one. That's why I wouldn't be shocked if that way.
He and Brian Boucher are still on speaking terms, so that's good.
Right.
Well, the one similarity here, because you use Bishop and Vasilevsky as an example, Rene is entering the last year. Not this year, but the following year, next season, is entering the last year of his contract. $7 million last year, and I believe he's 34 or close to 35 years old. So Saros might be the future. And if you're down 3-0, and you probably think the odds of you winning are remote, it might be an opportunity to get your young goaltender ingratiated to the crucible of the Stanley Cup Final. So that might be something, but I think he's going to go with Rene in Game 3. If he goes to Saros and Saros, does not play well, then I think Laviolette takes a lot of heat on himself.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely what we'll see. He's got it. It's not even the heat. It's just a matter of it. You do owe it to Rene at this point. To give him the shot at home. Like they haven't played at home yet. And the big thing about these series is always until you lose at home. It's not a real series. So that will play into this. But it won't be too slow, I don't think, if Rene comes up slow in the beginning. I could see, Laviolette, we've seen him make changes. He's not quite the timeout calling machine he used to be, because obviously because of the highlight, the replay thing has taken that away from him, which I don't like. I thought that was one of Laviolette's better things before, where he could actually call timeouts 30 seconds into the game sometimes to get things turned around. There's plenty of times he's wanted to do that in this series, but can't.
That's true. I would say this. I think he would have to give up 2 goals quickly to ever get chased from that game. Otherwise, it would have to be the same scenario as last game, I think, for him to get chased. He's going to go down with the ship almost with Pecorino.
Yeah. I think he has to.
It's not going to be a scenario where it's like Brian Elliott with Calgary, where he got yanked after giving up a goal in like the first minute and they pulled him. I mean, I think he'll get a little more slack, but if they go down 2 or 3-0 in the first period with that crowd like being silenced, then I think Laviolette's got to shake things up.
Yeah, no, and they will. I mean, and silencing that crowd will be a big deal if they can actually get that. I've got a funny story that I saw today. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. It's on I think it's on NHL.com. It's how the Penguins came to own the draft picks that they used to get Jake Getzel. This is a crazy story. I mean, Jake Getzel's been really, something else. And here's the story. Ready? This is pretty funny. Okay, so on June 27th, 2011, the Minnesota Wild sent a 2013 third-round pick to the Flyers in exchange for Darren Powell. Okay.
Oh, nice.
On February 16th, 2012, the Flyers flipped that pick, as well as a 2012 second-round selection acquired from the Kings to the Dallas Stars to get Nick Grossman. Dallas traded a conditional third-round pick and forward Brendan Morrow to Pittsburgh for defenseman Joe Morrow and a fifth-round pick in 2013. The Stars also possessed a third-round pick by way of Edmonton and therefore placed a condition on the trade with Pittsburgh, whereby the Penguins would receive the lower of the 2 selections. Minnesota finished with a better record than Edmonton that season, hence the Wild pick being assigned to Pittsburgh. And that's how they got Jake Getzel.
That is the fun part. When you do forensic work on that, and I like doing that sometimes on picks, It is fun.
And that's so the Penguins can thank the Philadelphia Flyers for Jake Getzel. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, can we just bring this up, because I mean, okay, I know that there are a lot of people out there that pick Nashville and think Nashville still has a chance, and I'm not saying that that's not the case. But let's assume that Pittsburgh is up 2-0, that they're going to win this series, and they're going to win the Stanley Cup for the second year in a row. Right now, I think Jake Getzel is the leading candidate for the Conn Smythe.
I think he's the second guy. I think Malkin's still the leader. I'm going to give Getzel. I think he's second on the list. I think Malkin's ahead of him.
He's got 11 goals, Russ. I mean,
I know, but Malkin's the leader in points, and there have been times in games where he has been almost impossible to cover, and so I think if you're asking writers to choose between Getzel and Malkin,
right,
and most things are equal, I think Malkin's going to get the nod.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, I mean, it depends. There's still some of the series we played out, so.
No, I know. I mean, Getzel scores a hat trick.
I think it's still first rate.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just bringing that up because we mentioned Getzel, and I've heard, and there's been some talk about him being now a legitimate candidate for the Conn Smythe. I'm not saying that Nashville doesn't have a chance to come back.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, even if Penguins win, I think it's still a horse race between Getzel and Malkin. I really do. I think that at the end of the day, and then I think that if Getzel scores, 5 more goals in the series or whatever, he's going to get it. I mean, it's just at this point he's got 3 goals in 2 games. So
if Matt Murray would have 2 consecutive shutouts, he'd be right in the conversation too.
Don't think so, only because of the fact that Fleury got them past Washington. So I think that's going to play out. I mean, there was something interesting about Malkin that I saw, that Malkin actually has the chance to be the first player to lead the playoffs in points and penalty minutes. Since what player did that?
Points and penalties.
No, I'll give you a hint. It was in 1947.
Oh, wow.
1947. Yeah.
So it's a Maple
Gordie
Leaf.
Howe.
No, it's a Maple.
No, it's not.
It's a Maple.
It's not a Leaf.
It's not a Leaf.
Nope.
Well, they won the Cup that year.
It's not Gordie Howe. It's not Bobby Clark. It's not a Leaf.
It's probably who the Leafs played in the Stanley Cup Finals that year, to be honest.
Yeah,
it
then it's got to probably be somebody with the Canadians.
That's a Canadian for
Rocket
sure.
Richard. I think it was too early for Rocket.
Maurice Richard.
Oh, okay.
Maurice
There you
Richard.
go.
Oh, wow.
That's quite a stat if you can actually.
That's a great stat.
If you can lead in penalty minutes and points in the playoffs. I mean, does anybody wonder why Malkin doesn't shoot more? I mean, it's just like crazy. That shot he took the other night on the 2-on-1 was crazy. I mean,
I think he's just such an unselfish guy that he's always trying to get his line mates into the play, and he tries to be that guy that draws everybody to him. That's just what he's used to. I think I think we always yell at guys to shoot more, but I think at the end of the day, that's built into his DNA.
Yeah. No, I agree. But when he has a shot, he's got one of the quickest releases of any player I've ever seen. Like that release on that 2-on-1 was crazy. That was just.
And he shot over a sliding defenseman too.
I know, and it was ridiculous.
He's one of the great players we'll ever see, and at that point, before he becomes a Hall of Fame, he really gets his due.
Yeah, and can he ever really get his due as long as he's on the Penguins with Sidney Crosby? That's what I always wonder.
I think he can.
I don't know. It reminds me, a little bit of Messier and Gretzky, I guess, where Messier, I thought, really got his moment because of he was going to be a no question Hall of Famer, but the winning with New York was like that put Messier over the top.
Okay, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean but I don't think that was a design thing. Like, hey, I got to get out from under Wayne Gretzky's shadow. I mean, it just happened.
No, it wasn't. And he also, he won a Stanley Cup in Edmonton without Wayne Gretzky too. So there were other things, that happened there too. So yeah, for sure. But
all right, so I do have breaking news.
Yeah.
Breaking news. Go for it. What do you got?
So the KHL club Dynamo Moscow was raided by the police today.
Oh, jeez.
I heard about this.
And they were raided because they're in a dispute with the league over finances. Uh-oh. Yep. That's all I can say. Uh-oh.
They came in with hacksaws, and this is not good.
I don't know, man.
And this is one of the historic franchises in Russian hockey. So we're not talking we're not talking about the Vladivostok Admirals here. We're talking about Dynamo.
I would say this is the one.
Go ahead.
Good. I think this is the one team they actually sit there and say that this is probably the most historic team that's left in beyond the Red Army team.
Yeah. Now, when you walk into there and you're looking around, are you going to find pay stubs or a version of the Russian QuickBooks? I don't think you're going to find that.
No, you're gonna find a collection of brown paper bags. Is what you're going to find.
Yes.
And McDonald's receipts. Like you're going to see McDonald's receipts, and that's what you're going to see there. No question. It's crazy.
So I just wanted to pass that on.
Yeah, I know. There's another thing that just came over. The Dave Isaac, who covers the Flyers, reports that Ron Hextall will consider trading the number 2 overall pick, but doesn't see it likely happening, which means it's not happening.
I'm going to give you a percentage chance of it. You want to know the percentage? It's 0.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah.
All right, 0.00001.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yes, that's fair.
Who would actually be offered? He would have to be offered.
Well, he'll get offers the same way Hextall's been giving offers the last 2 or 3 years to try and move up, and he hadn't been successful. And this won't be successful either because they need the pick. They actually need the pick.
It would have to be like Patrick Laine or something like that. Like it would be something crazy, like ridiculous, like that.
It would have to be something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a young player on an entry-level deal that's as good as who they could get, which is either Patrick or Hischier. So I don't foresee a team trading that type of player. So I think that the chance is negligible.
Right.
Also, in legal news in the hockey world, which I know everybody loves. Everybody loves nothing like a good legal discussion to get everyone
very
going.
exciting about finances.
I know. I thought I would throw that out there too. the lawsuit. There's a lawsuit in Detroit being filed by a fan, or not a fan, no, but by a person in the community. And the lawsuit just says that the resident files a lawsuit alleging that the public money committed to the Red Wings' new arena should have funded public schools. So it's going on. There you have it. I mean, obviously, if the public schools aren't funded, they are more important than the arena. But I think it's always fascinating when something like this comes down the line.
How does he have a chance of winning that? Seriously, that's the ridiculous part about this is part of your ideology. I'm not going to rip you for that. That's fine. I get what he's trying to do. But as far as a lawsuit is concerned, you have no chance of winning it. All you're really trying to do is get some attention to yourself by filing. Yeah, that's the way I see it.
And honestly, if you want to weigh the wasted money in municipalities throughout the United States and Canada that has been wasted on arenas and that has been wasted on ineffective public schools, I think there's no contest of who's going to win. And I'm a certified teacher, and my father taught in the Buffalo Public Schools for 35 years, and I can tell you it is a sinkhole of wasted money.
I mean, here's what I'm thinking. The guy who filed the lawsuit, if you're that passionate about wanting the school systems to be better, start a GoFundMe, and you started off with the money that you're going to waste hiring a lawyer for this frivolous lawsuit.
Right. Form your own charter school and shut up, is what I say.
This is just, this is, I mean, I don't ever, I know you're right. You're 100% right, Mike. And it's a problem with our society in general. I mean, and there's no question that that's going to happen. But, I don't know. I give him some kind of credit for doing this because I think that, that it's good for people to stand up for what they believe in. I'm all for that. So, I mean, yes, is it going to get anywhere? No. But at the same time, I think it's important for people to make statements along those lines of people being important, making statements. Mike Zibanejad has released his first single. Did you guys realize that he actually is a singer and has?
I've never heard his voice. I've never heard his singing voice.
It's on YouTube. It's I can't do it from here, I don't think, but you guys might be able to do it. Yeah,
let's save the noise pollution, and we'll just take your word that he
goes by the name of Micah, Mika. The song is Forever. The song is called Forever. It's the debut single by Micah.
I'm going to guess it's partially a rap song. That's my guess.
Yeah. Well,
it's about how long it's going to take the Senators to win this cup. No, it's not. It's about the ups and downs of a relationship.
What I would like to know, Russ, is will it outsell? We're going to win that cup by current assistant general manager of the New York Rangers, Jim Schonfeld, which he recorded in the 70s when he was in Buffalo.
Yeah, this is serious. Sure. This is not like this. There's a music video and everything. This is really.
Yeah. Oh, listen. I mean, if I had a couple extra $1 million, I could fund my own music video and cut a single too. But you wouldn't want to hear it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it's not a music video actually. It's I just to play you a little bit of something here. This is not.
Actually, you know what? If I did have a couple extra $1 million, I would hire you and your band to at least play it, and then I would just accompany you.
My band would do it.
And then
do it for
holding your ears like that.
Here we go. This is this is actually Mike Zibanejad performing pictures of him. These are some of his things. This is real.
Saturday Night Fever in them.
You can't hear it. You can't hear it, but this is real stuff.
Mercifully.
No, listen, I don't think we should look at. There you go. That's the.
Oh, look at that.
That's badass. There you go. Yeah. No.
I think he was breaking through the glass ceiling. Wasn't that what he was doing there?
Unfortunately, I'm in a place where he looks tormented, as everybody on Ottawa.
Well, he's a Ranger.
As everyone on Ottawa was, yeah. Yeah. So no, this is not.
That's the look that he had when Tanner Glass was on his line, Russ.
Right.
Okay.
There he is making that move that you've seen many times on the ice. Okay. No. So anyway, that's Zibanejad. I don't want to make fun of this because, as a musician myself, it's not fair to make fun of this at all.
No,
so
I'm just having some fun with it. Yeah.
I think this is serious stuff. So I'm thinking this is what he wants to do, which is kind of cool. Anyway, there's that.
Do you want to talk about the rumors that you mentioned in today's?
I should do that. Let me do that. All right. So back to me. not nearly as interesting as Zibanejad, man.
Yeah, I don't think I can pull off his hair with this.
He's a good-looking guy. I mean, he and Lundqvist now actually could do something together. They could put them together, you know.
Well, Lundqvist plays guitar.
I wonder if Henrik's mad because Lundqvist does play the mean guitar, and it seems like he was excluded from this project.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe he was. Who knows? He might be on there somewhere. We don't know. We don't have the liner notes yet for this project, so we don't know.
That's true. We don't have the liner notes. You're right.
Lundqvist did some session work. That's what he did. Yes.
Right.
All
right. Let's talk hockey rumors. All right. So here's the thing that I found very interesting today. There's a big thing out there that I heard at the final, and I continue to hear now, of the Leafs targeting Carl Alsner as their number one target. And it makes tons of sense to me. He's the guy I would get if I was them. He is young enough and he's good enough in defense, and he's going to be. He's got experience. He's got everything you want if you're the Leafs. So, but the problem is, McPhee, of course, knows him very well from Washington. Has connections with him, and wants him in Vegas. And Vegas can Alsner is a UFA, and Vegas can negotiate with him first. So that has prompted rumors that the Leafs are actually trying to pick up his rights before Vegas has a chance to do it, which would give them the ability to do it. And I'm not surprised at all. But what is surprising is now that the Capitals have interest in John Van Riemsdyk, and that somehow, Alsner's obviously not going to be the key part of that deal. He's just rights you're getting. But he would be included in a deal that would have a prospect and a ready for NHL defenseman, that's how it was told to me. Ready for NHL defenseman with a pick and a ready for NHL defenseman who hasn't played in the NHL yet. I guess too much. I don't know who that would be. You'd have to go through Washington.
Probably be Madison Bowie because he's their defenseman that is ready to jump to the NHL.
So maybe it's him. And the rights to Alsner for John Van Riemsdyk. Now the question, of course, you're all going to ask, because I know James. The question we're all going to ask is how the heck can the Leafs afford? How can the Capitals afford James Van Riemsdyk? Because this is a team that's in cap hell already. And that I have nothing for you as far as that goes. As is typical in these situations,
Well, I'll go the opposite way.
You don't get the whole story. So.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to go the opposite way. I don't see how the Capitals could afford to get rid of Madison Bowie, because then there'll be two defensemen down, losing Orlov, and really three if you're counting also. They're going to be a little weak on the blue line to begin with.
Yeah. Well, okay. The only thing that makes sense regarding them getting JVR is that that's an admission that they're not going to be able to re-sign Oshie, because Oshie, he's going to expect big money, and if it's in Washington or someplace else. And Van Riemsdyk has a year left at $4.25 million. If they just let Oshie walk, the money that Van Riemsdyk makes and that Oshie makes is pretty much a wash. But as Russ said, if they're giving up, Bowie is probably the guy who replaces Orlov if Orlov goes to the KHL. I'm a little skeptical. I was really on the bandwagon regarding Alsner in the season, but things I've learned since regarding his injuries during the year, and the fact that the Leafs don't want to tie up tons of cap space past 2 years because of the Matthews contract and the Marner contract and what they're going to have to sign Nylander for. I think that they're going to try and trade for a defenseman, but it's going to be somebody who's already under a contract. They may very well be interested in Alsner, and if they can get Alsner on a reasonable salary, then that might mitigate things. But Kevin said on our show, Kevin Allen of USA Today, said in our show a few weeks ago that Alsner was looking for $5.5 million, and if he's asking for $5.5 million, there's no way in hell that Lou Lamoriello is going to sign him for that much. So I think the Leafs are going to go the way of the trade, and I would point toward Anaheim. I continue to think that the Anaheim situation with Vatanen or Manson is a more likely scenario for them, but it's possible.
I think when you play into this, you have to think of what Lamoriello likes, kind of defenseman Lamoriello likes, and I don't think that Vatanen and Manson are what he would be looking for as much as Alsner. I think Alsner really fits more of how Lou would build a defense, and that's nothing against. Vatanen's a good defenseman, but they have guys like that who are maybe not as good as him, but close to that. They don't really have anybody like Alsner in their system, or at least right now.
No, they don't. They don't. He's mobile enough, and he's a defensively minded defenseman. Offense is not his big deal, but I'm a little skeptical because I think he's age 28. He's looking probably for a 5 or a 6 year contract.
What's wrong with that? I mean, defensemen can go to 35, no problem. And you're looking, if you get 5 years out of Alzner, I mean, that's awesome.
But he's not an offensive guy, and the problem is you're going to lose 30 goals in Van Riemsdyk, and who are you getting back in this deal to make up the 30 goals? That's the problem.
Well, I mean, to that point, Russ, I do think that the Leafs think that they have young guys that can step up to higher lines. Like they can move up Connor Brown, they can move up other
That's fine.
guys.
You know what, Mike, though? I'll give him 15 goals for that. Like up 15.
But what about, look at Kapanen, for example. Like Kapanen comes in last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, but you're not going to make up that deficit. It's easy to say that, but when you look at these trades and you go back and look at what really happens when a team has a plan, most of the time they don't make up that offensive deficit.
And one other thing that I think will be a factor, and you can say that some of these players may not be on the Leafs' radar when it comes to being a part of the team next year, but they signed 2 players from the Swedish Hockey League who they are going to give a chance in Calle Rosen and Andreas Borkman, and Travis Dermott is their best prospect with the Toronto Marlies, and they're all left-handed, and so is Alzner, and they have Riley and Gardner, who are also left-handed. So right now, what they're looking at, they probably, if they're going to spend money or spend assets, they're going to get a right-handed defenseman, and that's why a guy like Manson, who's on his entry-level contract and is only 25 years old, might be a better fit than Alzner because he's on a short-term deal and he's inexpensive right now.
Although
I don't know. I mean,
in Detroit, Babcock did have an all left-handed defense one year, and he got through it. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that they need all these guys you're talking about are potentially great down the line defensemen, but they are a team that made the playoffs this year. They are a team that almost won a round this year. That they went against a tough team. They are a team that needs a couple defensemen in their late 20s right now, immediately. Yeah,
they need 2 veterans right now. I actually think they need 3 defensemen. If their intent is to contend for the Stanley Cup next year, they need 3 defensemen. But again, I'm skeptical of whether they're going pedal to the metal to challenge for the Stanley Cup with Matthews in his second year, with Marner, with Nylander. I mean, if that's the case, then Mike Babcock is putting his foot down on the pedal and saying, let's get this going. And I'm not sure if I agree with that, but that might be where they're going.
I think they're going to go for it, but they're not going to use up all their resources to do it.
Exactly.
No, and this is a way of doing that. I think. I mean, if you pay him $6 million a year or something like that, for 7 years, I would do that. I would do that in a second because you're not going to get this kind of defensive.
I wouldn't want that deal.
No way. I mean, he's 28 now.
Yeah,
and
he's 28.
And 35. Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to think that the last couple of years aren't going to be great, but if you get 5 years out of him, that's great. You get 5 years where he's really good, where he gives you a better chance to win because your window is wide open.
But it's not going to have this monumental effect on my team. It's gonna be better, but it's not going to be a monumental change. That's my problem with it.
Right.
You don't need a monumental change.
Yeah, he's a stabilizer is what he is.
Yeah, that's what you need. I mean, you need a stabilizer. You don't need. I mean, believe me, you've had enough monumental changes on the Leafs to last a while. They've made. I mean,
not really. I mean, Jake Gardner's play is declining, if you ask me. So I think it's a defense that's going to be in flux, even if you put guys in.
I wouldn't phrase it as declining, Russ. I would phrase it because to many observers, Gardner had his best career year this year. He was more controlled because Babcock made sure he didn't match him up against top lines, and he was more disciplined than he's ever been. But when it got down to it, and when he did get exposed against top lines, Jake Gardner was Jake Gardner. That's why, I've been an advocate of moving him.
He was on the ice for a lot of goals. Fair.
He was their leading plus minus guy. But yeah, I
don't care about that.
Right. I know.
No, I think it's valid. I mean, he is what he is, right? I mean, I think that he's a serviceable 3-4 defenseman in my mind, and that's what he is, and he's going to be that for. Wow, and I think that's fine. It's just you don't have the leadership on defense, and you can't get those guys via trade usually because there aren't that many people. You really have to get those guys via free agency. There's really not many of those guys that are going to get traded. I mean, the players you're talking about from Tampa are players that are like players you already have.
Well, in looking at and we'll get off the Leafs here and talk about expansion and prospects in a second. This is my thing with the Leafs. I think that, if they're going to sort of shoot for the moon and look for a guy who can play with Riley on the top pairing, I think it's more likely that they try to trade for Marc-Edouard Vlasic from San Jose if San Jose can't get him locked up, or trade for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, or go down that road and trade 2 or 3 young prospects to teams to guys on short contracts. I just I'm sure they like Alzner, and I like Alzner. I think he's a good defenseman, but I would be scared away, and I think the Leafs are very hesitant to sign a free agent to so long of a contract that he's going to be going into his 30s. So that's why I'm a little hesitant there.
No, I don't disagree. There totally. I agree with you. I mean, I think there's definitely something to that. All right, let's get to you've got a prospect for us, Russ. Oh, actually, real quick before I do that, I'm sorry. I want to mention one thing as well. The other rumor I have on the website right now, which is picking up a lot of steam even since I wrote it, is the Islanders' interest in Jonathan Drouin, and that they're shaping up to be the team that might be getting Drouin, and Hamonic will be involved in that. So that's a something you have to follow. I do think that makes sense for both teams.
Yes.
I really, I think that there could be something to that. The question is, Hamonic, would he accept that trade or what have you? But I think he would.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I think that as a structure of a deal, I think that makes sense because Hamonic is locked in on a long-term deal, making less than $4 million. He's a top 4 defenseman. He gives you that defensive-minded stability on the blue line, and I think that Tampa is going to find a way to trade Drouin, but they have to get that top 4 defenseman to do it. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I like that deal. I do.
Yeah, I agree completely. All right, so let's get into Detroit today. We're talking about Detroit today and what they have to do here. I'm pulling up their team now, and we'll get right to it.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing this in the dark because I may not be able to see the list.
Okay.
So go ahead.
I'll just verbalize it, Russ.
Yeah, let's do that now.
In looking at Detroit, I think that they're in danger of losing someone who makes a significant salary, which in their case isn't a bad thing. I think they're going to end up going 7-3-1 rather than 8 skaters because they don't really have a great deep defense. They're obviously going to protect. They have to protect Franz Nielsen, who's got a no move clause. They're probably going to protect the young forwards that they have, like Nyquist, like Anthony Mantha, Thomas Tatar, and Anasiu. But there are guys like, do you expose? And I don't think you expose Henrik Zetterberg, even though he's 35 years old and making big money. But you could do that. But guys like Darren Helm, Riley Sheehan, Luke Glendening, they're going to have to expose 1 or 2 of them. And that's where, Vegas might take one of those guys and flip them to another team or use them as sort of a building block for them. Defensively, I think, they protect Green, DeKaiser, and maybe they they expose Nicholas Kronwall, hoping that Vegas picks him or somebody will, that they'll flip him someplace else. Goaltending, Russ, do they protect Jimmy Howard or do they protect Mrazek? Because I don't know who they really –
they're going to protect Mrazek, but it's all, it's one of those situations where even though they're protecting Mrazek, not like he's necessarily their long-term guy, but they're going to protect him just in case.
Yeah, so they could lose an effective forward, but, with some of these guys, you have Helm making almost $4 million. You have Riley Sheehan making $2 million. He only scored 2 goals last year. Glendening was more of a Mike Babcock favorite. Ironically, if they expose Glendening, and I would see Lamoriello talking to Vegas about picking him and swapping him to Toronto because Babcock loves Luke Glendening.
Yeah, I could see that. But look, Sheehan just had an off year, and we talked about it with Kevin Allen, and he's a pretty good.
Yeah.
I would try and save Sheehan I would be okay with losing Helm because of the contract if they would take him.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think you guys are right on that one. I mean, go ahead, Mike. You continue.
No, I was just gonna. If you don't have anything, I was gonna just refer to Russ and the prospect we were gonna talk about.
Yeah, let's go there really quick. Sorry, I got another rumor coming in, so I was chasing that, but that's perfect. Go ahead, Russ.
All right, so Nicholas Hague, he's an interesting guy because he's a big defenseman. Everybody wants a big defenseman. He's 6'5", around 215 or more pounds. He is a guy that really is a defensive defenseman, but he happens to have a great shot. And this is where you get into that debate where like we used to hear, hey, Dylan McIlrath has a great shot. Yeah, but Dylan McIlrath rarely got in a position to get goals. I remember when Dylan McIlrath scored his first goal, everybody went crazy, Twitter broke. But if we go back and look at it, he probably still only has 1 or 2 career goals. Always about opportunity. Hey, Sam Morin's got a great shot. He does have a great shot. But is he ever going to really be on the power play? Is he ever going to really be able to unleash it during a game?
Yeah.
And you're going to be in playing maybe 10 minutes a game? The answer is probably not very often, if at all. And so Hague has this nice part of his game, but he's a really good defender. And he needs some work on his skating, but he has a great long reach, and I like the pro body, and he will use physical play.
Yeah.
Is he a guy that I would expend a top 15 pick on? No. I have him currently ranked at 23. I'm not sure there's going to be that much movement with him, but some, I think, value him higher. I do, because they expect this offense because he has a really great shot and a heavy wrist shot. But again, at the next level, I just don't know if he's going to be able to use it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him in person once and saw him play a couple times. And, he's big, he's lanky, he's got big strides. I think pretty good speed. The game I saw him, it's funny because I thought he played rather soft defensively. And then, I had heard after the fact he'd been suspended a couple times this year for cross-checking players, that he's had a little problem with impulse control on the ice. So that didn't sort of correspond with what I saw, but it was just one game. I think he's going to get taken probably in the last 10 picks of the first round. I think that's, where likely he's going to go. I know that, teams like Buffalo and Toronto, no, Buffalo's got a higher pick, but Buffalo, Toronto, Calgary supposedly is looking to either take a defenseman or trade for one, that the guy like Hague will be on their radar. So, I think he's definitely a first-round pick.
I'll just say this, I room with a prospect guy who's better than me and Shane Malloy, and he says he has some problems pivoting to his offside. And so, that's something where if you know that on a guy,
right,
that's why I wouldn't take him in the top 15 or even 20,
right,
because of that reason, because now I know, okay, I've got something that, he has something he has to overcome.
Right. Yeah. You're not going to get somebody who's, perfect, in the lower part of the first round or the second round. It's something that if you can correct it, then it turns out to be a good pick. So, yeah. I think, there are enough teams out there that need defensemen, and I think a lot of defensemen are going to go in this first round. I mean, it, could be.
Look, I'm sure the Leafs have scouted him heavily. I know they did.
Yes, I know that. Yeah, I know that. It's Mississauga, so it's relatively close to Toronto. Yeah. So I'm sure they know him back and front. So yeah, I agree. All right, Eck dropped off, so he says end the show. So we will do that. We will be back on Monday. The Stanley Cup will be, I think, it will be Game 4 at that point on Monday evening. So and we'll give you some observations from the NHL Draft Combine that will be taking place.
I'll give one recommendation too for people maybe coming to Buffalo or in Buffalo. I tried that Hamburg draft yesterday, which is a local beer. It was really good.
Yes, there are a lot of local breweries, and people will say, you have to be drunk to live in Buffalo. So.
But I like the local. I like the local beer. I think it's good when you have a lot of choices like that, rather than going with just the big boys.
Yes, no Pabst Blue Ribbon here.
No.
For Eklund.
Genesee Cream Ale. Come on, man.
Oh, Jenny Pounders. There you go. For Eklund, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.